channel. My name is Karina and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys why I left ECI. So I am a licensed speech language pathologist assistant and I did used to work in ECI, which stands for Early Childhood Intervention. Now, as an SLPA, I would work directly with families who had children from ages birth till 3 years old. And what I would do is I would go inside of their home and offer speech therapy and kind of teach them practices they can use at home to help with their child's speech. I started this job fresh out of college. I was 21 years old. It was my very first job as an SLPA, and I did move from Austin to Dallas. Now, I worked there for about a year, and the real reason I left is because I was just going through a lot of things personally. My grandfather had just passed away, and I was going through things at home that just kind of made me reevaluate if that was the right decision at the time, if I should have moved from my hometown to Dallas, if I was supposed to be in Dallas, if that's where I wanted to spend the rest of my life. I was super blessed to have some time off to kind of reevaluate things and prioritize my mental health at that time. But after the break, I went back and just decided that that was not for me. I'm super blessed it happened the way that it did because I left on really good terms. This is not in any way anything towards like directly ECI. This is just things that kind of pushed me to that decision, things that were always in the back of my mind while I was working there for about a year. Don't get me wrong, I feel like ECI offered me a lot of experience. I got to learn so much, but at the end of the day, when I compare my old job to my current job, which is working in a school setting, there's a lot of things that I wish I kind of knew at the time. Number one thing that was always in the back of my mind was traveling, which can be good and bad. The bad part about it is that I had no idea where I was going to. I kind of just had to work with families, schedule a time and a place that worked well for them. Remember, I'm working one-on-one with these families. I'm going into their home. So you never know what you're walking into. It could be a full house. It could be strictly the babysitter and you. It could be a family member and you. It could be mom and dad versus you. Like, you just never know. On top of that, you're traveling from one place to another, which could be 30 minutes apart. It could be 45 minutes apart. It's entirely up to you. It'd be smart and ideal to book these visits 15 minutes apart, 10 minutes apart, down the street, but it doesn't always work that way. So the travel was a big one because I didn't always feel safe where I was going. And unfortunately, as a woman, it's a little bit scarier because I didn't entirely feel safe. Now, the pro to that was I was new to Dallas, so I got to know the city very well. I was traveling all over. I was just getting so much more familiar with the area, and now I know exactly like where I'm going if I'm ever back in that area. So it's both good and bad. You know, at the time I really did try to see the good in it. I was like, you know what, I'm learning a lot about this city. I'm brand new. It's getting me familiar with the area. But in the back of my mind, like I said, I always had this doubt, kind of like, I don't want to go here, I have to go to this area. So I still had to do my job at the end of the day, but it's something that did worry me. Number two was also very big. It was the cleanliness of homes. Okay, again, since you don't know what you're walking into, it could be rough. That's just the nicest way to put it. I remember doing observations before I started completely doing visits on my own, and sometimes, you know, the way people live is just different. You're coming from a place like where you were raised a certain way, you live a certain way, and then to go into somebody's home and see it completely different from yours, I feel like it's really easy to judge and be like, ew, this is disgusting. Ew, why do they do this? Not that it makes it okay, but it was also something that you have to consider before you go into these homes. Something to keep in mind with this job is, again, you're traveling back and forth between homes. So you don't really get a break to yourself. It's kind of on your own. You make time for that break. So that includes bathroom breaks. If somebody's home isn't the cleanest, you're not gonna ask to use their restroom. You know what I mean? You just learn which homes you can go to the restroom in and which ones you cannot. It's something that's just real. It's the truth. Now, that's not to say everyone's home is always dirty. It's just the way people live that's very different than yours. Example, I remember going into someone's home and I could have sworn she was a teacher, okay? She raised her children very well, in my opinion, and she labeled literally everything in her house. So that's a practice I learned in the future. I want to do that for my kids. You know, I want them to learn this is labeled a lamp, this is labeled the fridge. That's just an example that came to mind. So that's kind of the pro to it. You learn which practices you want to take home, what practices you want want to keep up in your life and what you don't want to do. Now, the third thing that was always in the back of my mind is a little bit more real. So initially, I was hired as a bilingual SLPA and as a service coordinator. All the service coordinator does is plan all of the therapy that the child may need. So I evaluate the child in a sense, and I'm telling the family, okay, you're going to need occupational therapy and physical therapy and speech therapy. That's just an example. Back to the third thing that was always in the back of my mind. It was very hard to keep up with what families I only did coordinating for and then what families I was the bilingual SLPA. I quickly felt very overworked, and I didn't know at the time that it was because I was bilingual. Looking back now though, I see that it was a lot to take on fresh out of college. And while it did help me a lot, at the end of the day, that wasn't what I went to school for. I felt like I didn't go to school to be a service coordinator. So I went to school for speech, and that's strictly what I wanted to do, was be an SLPA. However, I took on the job because I knew I would learn a lot, and I did. I got so much experience, but that's just something that I always kind of put to the side because I was like, no, this is a good job, you know. Yes, you're being a little overworked, but you can handle it. Like, it's nothing you can't handle. I kind of built myself up in that way. I didn't want to put myself down like, this is way too much for you, you can't handle it. I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to kind of prove myself wrong, especially it being my very first job out of college. Now having another job, I see I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to push myself to kind of prove this worthiness to somebody or to myself. I didn't have to do all that. With all that being said, I took a lot away from working in ECI. I feel like I took away very good speaking skills because you have to be a good speaker when you're communicating with families and therapists back and forth, back and forth. I also learned how to spot a lot of autism behaviors. While I completely cannot diagnose because I am not an SLP and I'm not certified in that, I can't diagnose, but I learned a lot of behaviors that lead to the diagnosis of autism. I also learned a lot about like the importance of speech at home and how it affects everything, not just playing and communicating with others. It affects so much more in a child. And I also felt like I learned a lot about the city when I was a brand new person to Dallas. So I got to learn so much in ECI. I feel like I owe a lot of my knowledge now to that job because I just learned so much. And I'm very thankful to love what I do, speech therapy, whether it was in that setting or in the school now. I like what I do, and I like working one-on-one with the kids. If you did like my content today, please make sure to like this video and please subscribe to my channel. It'll mean so much to me. I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye!